Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Good. Can I just get a bit of a show of hands? Who in the audience here loves to get on an aeroplane and your favorite thing to do when you get on the flight is to be wearing a comfortable pair of tracksuit pants? Can I just get a show? Cool. Okay. And you see the suckers in like the business attire all dressed up and you think you're missing out. So last night I got on the plane, had my trackies on, it was so cool. Then I got up this morning, opened my bag to put on my button-up shirt and my black jeans, and they're at home. So this is the first presentation I've ever done in tracksuit pants. Yeah. Woo! Yeah. I walked in, the team up the back are like, everything has gone so smooth for us this morning. I'm like, good for you. Good for you. And I'm flying straight to Melbourne after this. I've got meetings all day, and anyway, it's all good. We're good. Okay, I want to start actually by asking you to turn to the person next to you and saying something, because I bumped into this speaker once, and he said, Daniel, just remember, as a speaker, no one will ever remember what you say. And I was like, that sounds discouraging. And he went on to talk about people don't remember exactly what you say, but they remember how you made them feel. My hope is that at least you remember like one thing from today. 5 words as a bare minimum. The first 2 words I get out. And can I ask you to turn to the person next to you and just tell them to get out. Go. Welcome. Okay. Perfect. All right. Now, the next 3 words, and I want you to turn to the person you didn't turn to first. Maybe they're not your favorite neighbor. And you say the next 3 words, which is, and stay out. Go. All right. All right. So we are 5 words into this. We've nearly lost you guys. You have a loud group, which is incredible. Get out, stay out. We're going to come back to it in a few minutes. It's an idea that has shaped us. It's an idea that helps us every day. But when I grew up, I said to myself, I'll never become that dad. Now, for any parent in the room, or those that have friends that are parents, you know there's always that dad that you meet. And they say, I have a child, and then without you requesting it, they pull their phone out. And they start running you through this slideshow of how their kid is the most talented kid in the world. And I used to watch that happen. I'm like, when I grow up, I'm never going to be that dad. Then we had our son, Jed. And this is not a joke, but he's literally, he's literally the most gifted kid in the world. And like, as I have proof, because day 2 at the hospital, our son Jed, he starts smiling, like a proper smile. And I'm like, this is so incredible. And this lovely midwife was like, oh, sir, no. So that's what happens when a baby has gas or wind. And I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure I know my own son. But I took a photo week 1. Who thinks that's a smile? 5 hands, thank you. And I understand this is a little bit unprofessional, the trackies, the family photos. At this point you're thinking, is it a full family slideshow? Yes, it is. So this is my incredible wife and co-founder, Justine, and our daughter, Jordan. And we love this thought that none of us were born into the world understanding how the system works. We learned that. And society teaches us, here's the lines that you should stay in between, and you can edge outside them just a little bit. But this is a story of exploring, what if you went further? What happens if you start to wonder about going outside those lines and the difference you can make in the process? And I want to take you to a moment where I was 19 years old and I was sitting in front of my computer with tears streaming down my face. I was watching stories of kids who didn't have access to clean water. The statistics read in 2008 that 900 million people didn't have access to clean water. And to me, that was a number quite hard to comprehend when you grew up in Australia, country of 20-something million people. But It was the stories that got me. Kids talking about losing their brothers and sisters to waterborne disease. I had this one moment where I'm crying because I'm literally considering, what if that was my story? And if it was, then my sisters who are younger than me, Jess and Mel, they would have died from the water that I was collecting them. 4,500 children die every single day from waterborne disease. And for me in this moment, I was feeling like this is so wrong. I can't even comprehend this. And at the same time, I'm also, if I'm honest, feeling completely overwhelmed, because when you read statistics like 4,500 children die every day, 900 million people don't have clean water, your eyes glaze over. It's a lot to comprehend. But then I saw something I couldn't unsee. It said in 2008, we were spending, at the time globally, $50 billion on bottled water. The world water crisis, the bottled water industry. Today we spend over $350 billion a year on bottled water. Can I just get a show of hands if you think bottled water is a silly product? Cool. Can I just get a second show of hands if you've ever bought a bottle before? Now, I like that moment because it's like, bottled water's silly, I'm silly. We shouldn't be doing it. But to me, it was confronting seeing one world and two extremes. And we had this idea. Imagine if there was a brand of bottled water that existed to right this wrong, this injustice, the world water crisis. And then we dreamed up an even bigger idea. Imagine a consumer goods company that starts in water, one day grows to many products, and we'll show some of our more popular products like hand wash and body wash soon. But we just dreamed up this idea of empowering us as consumers and turning these moments that we're all part of every day into righting a wrong, this injustice that shouldn't exist. When you zoom out and look at consumerism, it's crazy. Each year, collectively, we are spending $63 trillion a year on stuff. That's a lot of money. At the same time, right now, there's 715 million people living in extreme poverty. One world, two extremes, could we bridge it? And I remember telling my best mate, Jared, at the time, I'm like, man, I had this idea. Imagine a bottle of water and then other products. And he's like, bro, that's incredible. He's like, I'm in. And then he's like, how do you start a bottled water company? And I'm like, I have no idea. And so we do what like the most professional people in this room do not do, which is we just Google how to start a water company. And Google was amazing to us, right? It said you need a bottle and a factory. I'm like, makes sense, right? And we start clicking around. I was telling my girlfriend about it. We've been dating for a month. She was the best. And it was love. It was so beautiful. I'm telling her this like idea, and her story is wild because from the age of 14, she had run like bake sales and clothing swap drives, raised money, and used that to travel to countries like Indonesia to help out in some communities, see extreme poverty firsthand. That's wild, the age of 14. But as she grew up, her passion was in business, in marketing, in HR, and she wanted to grow up and use her passion for business to right this wrong that she had seen firsthand. So I'm telling her about this idea of a business that existed all for the end of extreme poverty. And she's like, this is incredible. She's like, I'm in. I'm like, yes. And then I'm thinking, there's probably a book somewhere that says, don't get into business with your girlfriend and your best mate. But we did it. And, Justine and I are now married. We have kids, we still work together. That should get a round of applause, that bit, Yeah. I feel like some of you are like, I wouldn't do that. But we sort of like naively, and people would say to us that word in the early days, you guys are so naive. And it didn't feel good. In hindsight, the naivety or the kind of the childlike thinking was an absolute gift. And the more we grow up, the more we fight to keep that childlike thinking. I take you to the early days. When I say childlike, you want a visual? We're driving in to meet some factories, and we drove in and we took the P plates down from the window because we didn't want to look too young. we go in, we're wearing our parents' suits, and we're here to launch a huge bottle of water brand. It's going to change the whole industry. And these factory owners would look at us like, you're up against the biggest beverage company in the world, Coca-Cola, a whole bunch of others. They're like, you'd have to have something pretty special. And we're like, we do. Now, in the first few meetings when we were asked, what is the idea? We'd borrowed this business term we heard. And so when asked the questions of what is the idea, we would say, oh, look, unfortunately, we just can't share it with you at this point due to confidentiality. And the word works. I mean, eyebrows raised. One guy's like, well, you'd have to do minimum 2 million units a year to do business with us. And we're like, oh, cool. And what's the maximum you can do? He's like, 20 million. And we're like, oh, that's interesting. We're just researching for the right partner. Yeah, the coolest part of this meeting was the acronyms. Like, you guys have acronyms, in your space, but they would just drop, and we would write them all down, and we'd look them up later, and it was this interesting journey of like, we don't exactly know what you're talking about, but we're going to pretend we do. The bit we did understand, though, was at the end of many sentences came this like price tag, like minimum label run this many dollars. Your own bottle mold shape, $250,000. And we would try and keep a straight face as they said that. I'm like, that makes sense. And we pieced it together, and after like 4 or 5 meetings, we're like, wow, we're stuffed. Because it turns out you need money to do something like this. And hundreds of thousands of dollars. We had about $1,000 between the 3 of us. Which was cool. It was mainly Jared's money because he's a saver. So we didn't have the money you need. We certainly didn't have the experience, but we learned something about vision. Vision changes things. In the 5th factory, we shared the vision. We said we want to change the world one bottle at a time. We dropped the confidential thing. We talked about all the profit going, and the factory manager loved it. He's like, guys, this is incredible. We said we'd come up with a brand name. It's called Thankyou. He's like, can you call that? Can you call a brand Thankyou? And we're like, someone called their product Apple? Facebook? We think so. We trademarked it, which is so special because a friend who was in law school, I was like, bro, how does trademarking work? And he said, which may not be the best advice, but he said that if no one's ever put a TM next to the word before, you can just put a TM there. So that's how we trademarked Thankyou. And we stuck it on the product. This is one of our very early products that's no longer in market because bottled water's not a good product and it's silly and we're out of it now, but we started here. TM on the bottle. I mean, the owner was like, okay, thank you, I get it. And he said, so how are you going to get this to market? And we said, oh, well, next week we're presenting to a company called MBC. And when we said that, he just started laughing. It was like a funny laugh, and we'd read about mirroring people in meetings, and so we were laughing with him. Like, yeah. He's like, you don't get it, do you? We're like, no, exactly. He's like, so MBC are the biggest private beverage distributor in this country. You don't go straight to them. You start small, you prove your model, you work your way up. Maybe one day a group like that would be interested. And we asked him, we said, if we did get a group like that, would you make it for us? And to his credit, he said, yeah, I'll definitely make it for you. I love this idea, but better than that, I'll cover the upfront costs. Hundreds of thousands of dollars gone in a moment because someone caught the vision. We left the meeting and we actually thought we should probably cancel that pitch to MBC because you only get in with a group like that one day. It's at that point I think we had the most valuable thought we ever had. At the time, I didn't feel like it, but the thought was, what if they said yes? Like, they're not going to say yes, but what if they did? We love this quote today, impossibility is only someone's opinion, not a fact. Because in those early days, we didn't have the experience. In this case, this company are never going to say yes, but we find ourselves the next week in the boardroom of MBC. Now, unfortunately, we couldn't get a label and a bottle in time, so a friend did like an A3 poster on the computer, and so we were holding that, and we're like, yeah, we're gonna change the world, and back and forward questions. I was like, do you have a factory? We're like, we absolutely have a factory, as of a week ago, but we have a factory, and he's like, man, I love this. He's like, I'm in. We're like, wow. He's like, I'll take 50,000 units from you guys. How quick can you get it to me? Now, it's at that point in the meeting, there was this awkward pause. And I said, oh, look, give us about 3 weeks. He was like, wow, that's quick. And I was like, we're pretty quick at Thankyou. You got to understand, we were not expecting this moment. I called the factory manager, I'm like, we got the deal. He's like, what deal? MBC. And they want 50,000 units in the first order. He's like, word, wow. I'm like, yeah. And we have 3 weeks to deliver it. He's like, what? Did they request that? I said, oh no, we said we could. So anyway, it turns out, we love this quote, but in manufacturing, some things are impossible. So it wasn't 3 weeks later. It was probably 6-7 weeks later, product starts coming off the line and goes out to the distributor. But vision does something incredible for us as people. It helps us rise up. When we start looking beyond just ourselves. I remember a business mentor, my first meeting with him, I told him the dream, said we need a few $100,000, and he just looked at me and said, where would you get the money from? And in my head I was thinking, that's why we're meeting? Wouldn't you give the money? How does this work? And I said, there's going to be no shareholders. He's like, you're going to find that hard? I was like, this is not going well. The second time we meet up, the vision was refined. We'd also already met with MBC. And so I said, we got our first order. And he's like, that's incredible. Where's all your money coming from? I'm like, we don't have any. He's like, you'd have to. I said, well, it's a good point. The factory's covering a bunch of upfronts, but we haven't registered the company yet. And there's a few other little things we need to do. So to make this order happen, we need $20,000 in the next sort of 2 to 3 weeks. And he went dead quiet. He said, I'll call you later today. And I thought, this has gone horribly wrong. And later that day he called and he said, my business partner and I talked. We love that you didn't just talk about helping people. You got out there and did it. He's like, you have a check tomorrow for $20,000. It's a gift. It's a gift. Go for it. This story blew our minds in the beginning. But then it took a twist that none of us saw coming. Because as exciting as dreaming is and carrying a check to the bank for $20,000 that you think this should feel heavier. How is the money in there? And so we're doing business right now, we're doing it, and then we have a pallet delivered to mum and dad's garage. We didn't have an office yet. We're unloading the pallet, and then we just go dead quiet because a third of all the product in every box, the label was scrunched on. Some to the point you couldn't read it, and when we called the factory, we said, what's happened? He said, got a call back, sorry, turns out the quality control guy was away when we ran your product. I was thinking, is that even legal? Called up the distributor, said, hey, we've got an issue, we just need to get the product back. He said, back? We've put it into stores in Perth, Adelaide and Melbourne. This is a big distributor, they move very quickly, they're amazing. And then he explained that back, that's called a recall. They end brands. He's like, you haven't even begun. He goes, I don't give people a second chance ever. I can see it's not your fault. Get yourself sorted out. We'll go again. That's the bit we didn't see coming. We relaunch. It took a few months to get product back and relabel and go again. We built up to 350 customers, small cafes and outlets, a few here in Adelaide. It's pretty cool. But 350 wasn't anywhere near the thousands we thought would be stocking it. And then our factory, 1 year in, won a deal with the supermarket. When they won that, we went down their priority list to a point that over 5 weeks, they didn't supply product. Now that may not sound like long, but in the fast-moving consumer goods industry, It's a big deal. And so in 5 weeks, we lost 300 of our 350 customers. We lost our new distributor in Queensland. They're like, we're not working with you, you're just kids, you don't know what you're doing. And I didn't say it, but I was like thinking, it's not us, it's the factory. And they're older people, they should know. The whole dream of helping people, it crashed. Now we stuck in there because there were 2 retailers in this country, both had shown great interest. And we thought, if one say yes, it'll change everything. And so quickly we found a new factory. We also found a new distribution company in Sydney. Anyone from Sydney? Awesome. As you can imagine, this distributor from Sydney had a lot of confidence. They said, we're going to absolutely blow this out of the water. They said, you'll be in a minimum 2,000 stores in month 1. We're like, that's awesome. Jared's doing the numbers. He was in finance. And he's like, bro, 2,000 times anything is good. So this is like the big break. And then we never got a sales report on how many stores we got into because that distributor went into liquidation, and we got an email from an accounting firm and then a letter. That was followed by the 2 retailers who both came back saying no. Now that was discouraging, but probably more discouraging when they both came out with their own bottle of water that went to funding water projects. It was like, wow, everything we've shown you and talked about for months, you're going to do it now without us. And that was a weird feeling. The good news is that we got in this to help people, not to create a brand or a product. And so at least these retailers were doing good, and there's other retailers that we could meet with. And so that thinking we had, it was incredibly mature. It was mainly Justine's thinking. I wanted to hit people, but we stuck in there because there was this glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel. And it was one of the biggest supermarkets in this country, who we don't name. We don't even say red or green. It's tempting, but we don't. But we meet with them. And this sums up the first 3 years of Thankyou. Initially, in the first meeting, they said, we love your passion. And the idea is good, but you're up against the biggest beverage companies in the world. Brands will spend $6 million plus on a new launch. And we're like, oh, that's okay, we've got a Facebook page. They're like, no, you don't understand the level of business. We're like, you guys have like a whole supermarket of space. And turns out that's hard fought for. It's big business. But after 3 years of persistence, back and forward, in the background there's the highs and the lows that you've heard about. But 3 years in, we finally hear the best sentence of all time. Congratulations, you're in national range every store. That moment was years of persistence and getting up and going again. And it was the greatest thing. And when you get a deal with a big supermarket, you have got to be ready. And our factory knew that. They started producing. They're getting ready. They keep saying, hey guys, where's the order at? And we'll call them. We called the supermarket. And I never forget this phone call, because as I made the call, a new person picked up the phone and said, sorry, I'm new to the category. What's Thankyou? So I'm going to give you a call back. I called the old guy on his mobile. He'd moved to like the broom section or something. What's going on? He's like, oh, don't worry. You've had your national ranging commitment. You just call the new buyer and you tell them. So I called the new buyer again and said, hey, sorry for any confusion. We're from Thankyou. He's like, what is that? I'm like, okay, so we're a bottle of water and we've been working for 3 years and we've got national ranging and we're producing products. So we just need to know order date and delivery. And he said, I'll stop you right there. I've got the big brands and I've got my own brand. I don't need your water. I said, oh, we have a national ranging commitment. He goes, look, you do, but it doesn't stand. It's with the old category manager and I'm taking it in a different direction. Now, we're used to this now. It is quite common, but at the time, the first time, it really hurt. And 3 years in, I hung up the phone that day and I was crying because, probably angry, but really, I just felt like personally the biggest failure. Because we're now 3 years in and I was the kid who was always at the front saying, the next one. The next one. We're going to definitely get the next one. For the first 3 years, we'd volunteered all of our time. Justine had been nannying early morning, late at night, so she could work at Thankyou during the day. Work, volunteer. Jared and I were traffic controllers, the people that hold the stop slow bat at night, and people drive past you and they laugh at you, but we're sort of earning $60 an hour, so we're sort of but we did that. Now 3 years in, this is it. And a lot of people, and I realize this morning's meant to be a bit of a pick-me-up, and apologies, we're just going straight down. Part of me is a bit tempted just to finish, but I think the story gets a bit better. But before it gets better, I just want to talk about a question that we had so often and we still get today. How did you guys stick at it? Because that's a very rough 3 years. And the answer's sort of found in the question, because we stuck at it, not for a brand and not for a product. They're exciting things. But because we knew why we were doing what we were doing. For anyone in this room who's followed Simon Sinek's work, start with why. It's transformational. If you haven't heard of this, a quick TED talk, start with why, Simon Sinek, and you'll be in. There's books, you can go deep, but at its core, when we as humans know why we do what we do, it drives us. I had a chance to speak in New Zealand to 10,000 year 3 to year 6 students, and they're like, you've got 2 minutes, and you just need to land purpose. I was like, that sounds hard. But then I remembered this doll or toy we used to play with as kids. Maybe you know it. It's the one that has a weight at the bottom, and so you knock it over and it just bounces straight back up again. Did anyone play with something like that? That weight at the bottom, I think, is the best metaphor for when you know why you do what you do, you'll get up and go again and again and again. If we're honest, I think we should all spend our whole life mining the question, why do I do what I do? You can sort of figure it out, but then refine it. It's a journey, and it grows and it changes. And it would be interesting in this room if we went around just as an experiment and said, what cause moves you? What injustice in the world makes you feel uncomfortable? And as we go around the room, people would talk about maybe the state of the oceans, animal welfare, local homelessness, global poverty, climate crisis. And as we went around the room, it would be quite interesting and quite diverse. And it's not that some people have more of a heart and less of a heart. It's just as individuals, we all see the world different. And it's beautiful, but the things that drive us and move us are often deeply personal. One of the easy things about Thankyou is from the outside it looks clear. I mean, you guys know your purpose, helping end extreme poverty, great work. And that does unite us as a team, but it isn't enough because your why isn't just a cause. It's found in so many other things. For me, as family has grown, that sense of weight of what is the next generation these guys are growing up into? What's the foundation we're leaving them to build on? That drives me now more than I ever thought it would. And if you're looking for, why do I do what I do? And you want a quick hack, I think it's worth looking backwards and just looking for moments. Moments that moved you. Moments that maybe made you feel that sense of injustice. And I say moments because as a society, we've not done a good job at valuing moments. So we would say things like, we got caught up in the moment. Or we'd say, I'll be there in a moment, whatever that means. So we don't value moments, but I'm literally standing here today because of a moment in front of my computer when I was 19 years old. Now you could say that was just a moment. It was. But it fundamentally changed the direction of my life. And it turns out others too. Now, that is not the only moment that has moved me. There are hundreds now. But we cannot miss moments. In fact, the reason we gather as teams at Thankyou and the reason we do offsites and stuff like this, it's a bit smaller, but we do it to create the space for moments to occur. You can't make a moment happen, but there may be a conversation you have here today. Nothing presented from the main stage that becomes a moment for you that changes the trajectory of your life, your family, your future, our community, our world. Maybe it's something that's presented. You may even be on the back row, not to pick on the back row. You may not even be listening to the person up the front. And you have a moment. And I know this because I had one of these moments where, for context of this, I was in a room about half the size of this, and I was on the back row not listening to the guy up the front. Now, as a kid, my parents took me to church every week. So if you test me on the Christmas story or the Easter story, I got it covered. Then I grew up a bit, and then one week I said to Dad, I'm like, oh, I'm not coming this week. And that's a story for another day. But later on in my teenage years, I start this personal quest of like, why am I here and what's my purpose? And I start asking these big questions. And on my own personal faith journey, I find myself in the back of a room, not listening to the guy up the front, which is not good, but I'm having a conversation with myself, and I'm saying, where would we get the money from? How do I even know if this water idea is the thing you're meant to do? Like, I should probably focus on my uni degree. What is going on? I'm having this moment, and then I did something that my parents sort of taught me but didn't really teach me to do. I'm at the back, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, God, if I'm meant to do the water thing, could you just give me a sign, like maybe on the wall, just write Daniel, do the water thing? Now that didn't happen. Maybe it was too distracting for the group. I don't know. But I'm at the back, and there's this old book on the floor. It's an old Bible. I pick it up, I flip it open, and without flipping the pages either way, I read something I never read before. It was in a book called Isaiah, verse 41. It said, the poor and needy search for water, yet find none. Their tongues are parched with thirst, and I, the Lord God, have heard their cry. I'll turn the deserts into springs, and I'm like, who saw that? I'm telling people afterwards, I flipped it open, and people are like, that's a coincidence. I'm like, it was a pretty good one. It was a pretty good one. Now, I'm having a moment, and I get it's a bit personal, but if we had the time and went around the room and pushed each of us, why you do what you do is deeply personal. Your beliefs, your faiths, your perspectives, what moves you. We've got to figure out what it is. Here's the thing, 3 years in, this is a rough story, but you could say no to us 100 times. You could say no to us 1,000 times. We'll get up and go again because we know why. And 3 years in, we flew to Cambodia to see the first wells we'd funded. On the flight there, I'm thinking, we have failed. This isn't working. And on the flight home, after meeting one mum, her kids, speaking through a translator to Justine and I, and she'd said her story, and it was so moving. She said, thank you in Khmer, and it was like, oh, if the whole journey was for this family, this was it. This was worth it. And sometimes we lose perspective if we can't change the whole world. What's the point? But I love the thought that 715 million people live in extreme poverty, but there's billions of us who aren't. And to help one person, one family, what does that look like? I tell you, on the flight home, there was this fire, man, when we get back to Australia, we have to make this work. And we land and we do something the industry hadn't seen before. We launched a video on YouTube, and we said, hey, everyone, 2 weeks from today, we're presenting Thankyou to 7-Eleven Australia. And right now, we're asking you to jump onto their Facebook wall and say, 7-Eleven, if you stock Thankyou water, I'd buy it. Now, when we did this, people in marketing and stuff, you can't do that. That's ambush marketing. And we're like, oh, no, it's more pre-awareness before the pitch. People start singing, dancing, rapping, uploading their posts directly onto the 7-Eleven Facebook wall. Here's a little sneak peek at what happened. Check this out.
It's Craig and holy.
I love Thankyou water.
Where's your Thankyou water?
We love Thankyou water.
7-Eleven, please stop Thankyou water.
7-Eleven, stop Thankyou water. I'll get Daddy to buy it.
Thankyou water, Thankyou water.
If you stocked it, I would buy it.
I would definitely buy it.
I'd buy it.
I would buy it.
I would definitely buy them.
Everybody look to the left. Everybody look to the right. Can you see it? We'll pay for it tonight. 7-Eleven, thank you, 7-Eleven.
This goes on. While the phone rang, it was 7-Eleven. I did let it go to message bank. I called the guy back. He's like, Daniel, we have seen the videos. He's like, on your website, you have this question, would you like Thankyou water in 7-Eleven? He's like, there's a yes and a no button, but the no button doesn't go anywhere. I was like, I'll be honest, we didn't know where to send the no people. So we turn up and 7-Eleven end up saying yes. People in media called it clicktivism. This will never translate into sales, but they were wrong because from day one we outsold Evian, then Coolidge, and then we went to battle it out between number 1 and 2 in the fridge. In that process, we raised millions of dollars, and they say if your idea works, you should scale it. And so we did. But keep this in mind, we didn't change the idea, we discovered the secret. People, us. And we took it a step further and developed a food range. In fact, Callum Han, who won MasterChef All-Stars here in Adelaide, we wrote to him and we invited him to join our team as our CTO, Chief Taste Officer. He accepted and helped develop the food range. Then we developed a personal care range, hand wash, lotions, sanitizers. Is anyone familiar with this product? Cool. So if you're wondering how do you jump from like a non-technical product like water to a very technical product like this, the answer is beautifully simple. People. We met this 8th generation French perfumist. He talks about perfume and fragrance like, he's talking and we're like, whoa, and then he said, you probably think I have a big nose. I'm thinking, oh, don't know how to handle this. And he's like, oh no, we're 8th generation, we think that it's just grown over time. As I'm like, I am in. People in this industry who had been working for years, decades longer than we'd ever been alive, suddenly brought ideas to the table that like, we've always thought this would change the industry, but no one's had the courage to launch it. We're like, let's go. And we started developing product. We made something we're really proud of, but then everyone was like, how are you getting this to market? Because 7-Eleven's probably not the spot for this stuff. And we told all our manufacturers and all the product developers, don't worry, we have a plan. And our challenge was for 5 years, both supermarkets, Coles and Woolworths, had said no to the water. 5 years of no's, now we had a whole bunch of new products. So to solve this problem, one morning on YouTube, we launched a little video and we called it the Coles and Woolworths campaign. Now, when we launched this, we said, 2 weeks from today, we're presenting to Coles and Woolworths again. For 5 years, they've said no, but that's okay. Because now we're not just taking the water, we're taking everything. We need you to come with us, upload a post or a video. This thing started to go viral. I mean, one of the media interviews in Melbourne on radio, this guy Neil Mitchell was like, Daniel, you can't put the two biggest supermarkets who hate each other in the same sentence. And I was pretty nervous. I was like, oh, Wesley, our graphic designer, he didn't find it too hard. And so people start singing and dancing and rapping and uploading their posts. Then we may have flown this from a helicopter. Coles, thank you for changing the world in brackets if you say yes, because we haven't officially met yet. And we flew that around Melbourne and then around their head office for half an hour. In fairness, Woolies got one too. And my favorite part of the day was that Peter and Jeff, the pilots, they flew for free. I think that speaks to the part of every single one of us. Like, we want to help do something. The question is, like, what's in your hand? Like, for these guys, it was they flew every day, and we're like, could you one day for free? Just one flight, here's the plan. They love the plan. So just, if you can find a sponsor for jet fuel, we're like, easy. Turns out not easy, but we got... We all want to help. A long story short, 5 hours after the meeting at Coles and 3 hours after the meeting at Woolworths, they both say yes. Product hits the shelf a month later, and our profits grow. The hand wash goes on to become the #1 hand wash for 5 years, the highest loyalty in the category. Why? Because you guys put your hand up earlier, that's why. Not because we have the marketing dollars, not because we have what you're meant to have to compete with the big company, just because you put up your hand. It's changing the system. Thank you, we love this thought. To get a result the world's never got before, you must be prepared to do something the world's never seen before. And this is a lofty idea. And if world sounds too big, you could replace it with, to get a result, the industry, to get a result, our team, to get a result I've never got before. I need to be prepared to do something that maybe I haven't before. And at Thankyou, we're in the supermarkets, it's amazing. But our entire business model was flawed, and we knew that from the start. People in business are like, how are you going to scale this? It's unsustainable. And we knew that. Why? Because the business is owned 100% by our charitable trust. Founders don't get equity in shares. There are no investors. It's super cool because for all of us, when you buy it, it exists all for the mission. But you put a business hat on, how do you scale it? Where do you get the money you need to grow it further? Like, what if Thankyou wants to launch into a new country? Which we do. Where do you get the money? And so to solve our great big business flaw, we always said one day we'd figure it out. And so one day we did. We launched a little video on YouTube. And in the video we said I just finished writing a book titled Chapter 1. It's the first chapter of the Thankyou story, and 100% of the profit from this book, Chapter 1, will fund Chapter 2, the future of Thankyou. Buy the book, fund the future. And we invited those who supported us to help crowdfund the future of this organization. Now, for context, in Australia, a best-selling book is 5,000 copies. New York Times bestseller is 5,000 copies a week for 3 weeks. So it's actually not a huge number, and from that, you'd be lucky to make $7,500 to $50,000 as an author. But in our launch video, we set a target to raise $1.2 million. And we set that target because we wanted $600,000 to take Thankyou to New Zealand to test, learn, try, and one day take it further. And we wanted $600,000 to launch into the baby category. We said that's a lot of dollars and it's a lot of books, which is why we're launching this book at a pay what you want price, online and in retail. The retailers were like, hang on, how does that work? And we're like, okay, so someone would walk into your store and then your team would just say, hey, how much do you want to pay? And then they pay it. They're like, no, how does it work with the barcode? And we're like, oh, we're not sure. We're not retailers. But we invited the biggest book retailer in all the airports, Relay, the big red ones, Newslink and Watermark. We said, why don't you try something you've never done before to get a result that maybe you've never got before? This is our mantra. They agreed to it. And we launched. Now, on launch day, we didn't raise $50,000. In the first 2 hours of the Chapter 1 launch, we raised $360,000. In the first 28 days, we didn't hit our target of 1.2 million, we hit $1.44 million. If you're wondering how much did people pay, some people paid 5 cents. Like in-store and online. We have their addresses and... like, not that we'd share that, but it's real people. But one lady, actually a year after all the hype died down, she took it the most paid. Prior to that, it was $10,000 for a copy. But the most paid came a year in. A lady named Jane in New South Wales, she paid $50,000 for one copy. We wrote to her, are you sure? I wanted to say, and would you like another one? And honestly, the book is not that good, right? It's not. But the idea that we together can combine whatever we have in our hand and we can change stuff, that idea is worth something. My favorite story in Chapter 1 is a boy here in Adelaide named Landon. His mum wrote to us and said, Landon's bought 4 copies of Chapter 1 for $20 each. He was 12. He'd gift them to people he thought should go on to change the world. His librarian, his teacher, and his friend got one and he had a copy. And the last update from Landon was 18 copies that he'd purchased and gifted. No pressure. The retailers were surprised. They went from like, this won't. It's too complicated in retail, and how will people know the story, and why didn't you put the product on the front cover, and a few other questions like that. The book was second in the airport bookstores only to the Harry Potter launch week. It blew their minds. We won their innovation award. It was crazy. But the book traveled. And that's the bit we didn't understand. Like, we knew we were raising money, but we just didn't think this book is going to travel a long way. One of our heroes in marketing, Seth Godin, bought a book from New York. We express posted it to him. I wrote fan mail. Dear Seth, we look up to everything you do. He invited us to his house and we got to talk about Thankyou, going to the world. We found ourselves in conferences all around the world, people buying it, giving it to people, giving it to people. In Chapter 2, you'll read a lot of remarkable stories, but this one gives you a little sense of what happened because I was invited not to speak, but just to attend a conference in Chicago. The invitation looked really cool, and I went. I'm standing waiting for my lanyard, like you guys have on, and I'm waiting for it, and these 2 girls come up from the organizing team. They're like, are you Daniel Flynn? I'm like, yes. They're like, you didn't get back to our email last night. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, I'm really jet lagged. Came from Australia. And they're like, that's okay, but tomorrow morning, President Obama has asked if he could interview you on the live stream. Would you be up for that? And so I said, sorry, can you just one more time for me? And this happened. The next morning, he'd chosen 3 young people from around the world. We all had a sleepless night. We got no notice on this, but it was pretty special. A 23-minute interview. We have paused it on the one bit where I'm talking and he's laughing. And I wore proper pants that day and a jacket. I shaved, well done. So one of the questions he asked is that, Daniel, markets are global now. When's Thankyou coming to the world? I'm like, President Obama, we're just about to launch into New Zealand. And then after that, we'll bring it to the world. And it was super cool. At the end, I gave him a copy of chapter 1 and a hand wash. And he's like, oh, the girls and I, we wash our hands. This will be great. I'm just like, that is the coolest sentence I've ever heard. And the book has a message behind it. It says, you have the power to change stuff. And I want to land here, and we've got a bit of time for questions. But my mum's a primary school teacher. She's like, Daniel, you can't put the word stuff on the front cover. It's like, not proper. And I was like, Mum. And so we talked about it. We eventually got stuff on the front cover. And the reason is because our stuff, if we had time and went around this room, it looks different. The family context, the way we see the world, the industries, the teams, our stuff's different. But this is a discovery that you can push outside the lines and you can change stuff. You can see something and you can think, I wonder if we could change it. And you can. And change is big. And often that's the stuff that gets heroed, but we've discovered the secret to big change. It's small steps. Like how small? Like, yeah, I'll do one helicopter flight for free. Or as a perfumist thinking, yeah, I'll work on this project. As Landon, pocket money, raising money, buying a book, gifting it. You can change stuff and it can look small and it can lead to big change. Like when we launched the book, it appeared to be printed the wrong way. But our research showed us that there was no bestseller in Australia, America, Europe, anywhere that was printed like this. And we were like, wow, that's an opportunity. Books are usually printed like that. And we changed it. The publishers are like, why would you risk such a good story on a gimmick? There was a lot of fear going into it, but we changed it, we launched it, and we did it for 2 reasons. One, if you read this book on an aeroplane, that's invisible. You read this in public, no one will notice. But if you read that book, people are going to look at you, what are you doing? So it's about cut through. Post the launch, it worked. We had people from the speed reading community, this is my favorite, they wrote to us, we're debating, some of us think this new format is quicker. I'm like, come on. One guy said, this is so remarkable. How did you guys do it? How did you change the convention? And I'm like, we hit rotate on the print file. That's it. We hit rotate on the print file. You can't do this stuff. Or can you? The hardest part wasn't the click. The hardest part was actually the fear going into it. Because big change, small change still has one common thread. They say it's the fear of failure that has killed more dreams than failure itself. It's just the fear of failing. Like, what if it doesn't work? What if we're laughed at? What if I fail? That's the most personal one. And for me, I get that because in high school, I grew up and in year 10 and 11, I said, I'll never do public speaking. And I said that because I had a really strong lisp. And I'm annoyed with the person that came up with the term lisp to describe a lisp. And I wrote about the lisp, and I'm obviously talking about it. And fear is fascinating because it doesn't stop. Even right now, there's a part of my mind that is thinking, you're thinking, does he still have it? And I went to speech pathology, which is another hard word in the industry. And I learned that to change this, They drew a little picture and your tongue has to move like 2 millimeters or 3 millimeters back. It's such a small change. It turns out though it's really hard to do that. It takes a long time, like about 2 years of speech pathology. And we get really tired, the lisp is back. Small change isn't easy, but the outcomes of it are remarkable. At the beginning I told you to get out and stay out. 5 words. 5 words because I think every one of us have seen the circle that pops up on Facebook or some social network and it says, this represents your comfort zone, but out here is where the magic happens. Comfort zone magic, right? The great challenge to all of us is not just to get out of our comfort zone. We've done that before. It's the courage to go again, to get out and stay out. This for us is a mantra and we practice it every day. We practice it as an organization. We practice it as leaders. There are big things we do, and when people see that, they're like, wow, thank you, that's disruptive. In fact, we're about 10 weeks out from our biggest launch in our whole journey. Little sneak peek, there's 17 new products launching. They're incredible. It's exciting. And when it happens, I think people are like, oh, you've jumped off the edge of a cliff. Let's see if this works. But then there's the small change stuff, which is the private discipline, the things that like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do to learn? What am I going to do to step out? What does that look like? And I realize we've just gone through the pandemic. 2020 was rough for the world, and actually the data's fascinating because it said that we, as a civilization, have gone through a group trauma. And the trauma was not actually like one thing. They talk about it as a death by 1,000 cuts. It's the funeral you couldn't get to, or being in lockdown another day, or just, it's all of the little things. You combine it, and what it's actually left the world is stuck. To step out and go again. What's going to happen? What's it going to look like? Now, there's a great saying that says you cannot give out of an empty cup. And so I'm here telling you to get out and stay out, but for some of you might be like, how about you get out and stay out? Like, thank you very much. It's been a rough couple of years. And so if your cup is empty, you have to find a way to fill that. Step 1, for me, finding and discovering your purpose is powerful. Making sure you don't walk alone. I've walked this journey with co-founders and mentors, incredible friends who've helped me on the nights I wanted to give up. And there's been many. Know why we do what we do. Don't walk alone, and create rhythms of rest and space. Because getting out of your comfort zone is a tiring process. Sometimes you forget to pack your pants, But we're one chapter into this story. And it's been remarkable. Chapter 2's coming, and it's been humbling to be part of that process. But can I just put before you the idea to get out, to stay out? Because in that zone, that's when truly remarkable things can happen. And one morning at a conference, I said, I think we can each be remarkable. And the guy at the back, he yelled out, I'm going to quit my job. The CEO at the front was like, no, that's not the point of the session. And I felt awkward. Because that's what happens sometimes. We hear a story, we watch a video, we're like, yeah, I'm going to quit my job and do something in my life. And can I challenge you first to consider what's in your hand? Because that's often the first thing we miss. We look at other people and the changes they've made. But Thankyou is a collection of people that went like, oh, I do this every day. This is the influence I have, or this, yeah, I could do that. That combined has created this story. Guys, all the best on your next chapter. Thank you so much for having me this morning. Thank you.
All right, we'll take a moment. Does anyone have any questions for Daniel? I'm sure there are. Okay, we're going to go with you, Leslie, even though we're not sure what will come out of your mouth today.
Thank you. So we've just 17 million, we've just tipped over $18 million raised, which is awesome. We're funding 18, we call them change makers. They're charities who are really innovative in the giving world. The end of extreme poverty has been talked about for a long time, but it's actually well on its way to being achieved. And so we fund partners we're trying to be innovative in brand and product, they're innovative in impact. And so we work with organizations that work in human trafficking, work with organizations like Strong Minds who work in mental health throughout the developing nations, because if your mental health isn't strong, you're not going to get out of the poverty cycle yourself. We work with people who work in water, health, sanitation, others who work at like a government level, from lobbying to like big systems change, to people that help farmers, like our partner Raising the Village, who over the last 3 years, while the world's been crazy, has seen ultra poor, so people living on less than 40 cents a day, grow to over $3 a day in their income, which is huge, being studied by Harvard. Now this model will go out to other countries. And so if you jump onto thankyou.co, you're going to meet some of the most incredible change makers and the work they do. We all believe it's possible to see the end of extreme poverty, but yeah, it's a big mission. Thank you so much for your question.
I think we need to thank you. I think we need to thank you.
Thank you. Time for one more. All right. Yep.
Thanks for that, Daniel. That was very inspiring. I saw you downstairs and I was nearly going to throw $5 your way for a cup of coffee, seeing as you had the homeless person's attire on. Couple of things. Your business mentor gave you $20,000. So I guess my first question is, did he get his money back? And secondly, why do you think he gave you the $20,000? What did he see in you and your purpose that made him go back?
So it's an interesting question. So I think he saw something which was beyond just, we have an idea and we want to make a difference. He saw momentum. So he saw an idea and a factory and a distributor. And so we've learned the secret is momentum. You got to create it at Thankyou. And so we created it and he loved the vision, but then like, hey, they're going, they need help, I'm in, is very different to, I have an idea, if you help make it happen, it'll happen. So I think that was what we learned then. Later on when the book launched, he was in the room at the launch. And we hadn't asked him beforehand or anything, and we weren't sure what he'd do. Maybe the 20,000 was it, and that's fine. You know, it was incredible. But he saw momentum again, books, everything, and there was another piece of paper that night, and he bought $100,000 worth of books, and he gave out thousands of them to all of these business leaders. So it wasn't just the money, it was the people and his mentor, and it was just incredible. And I was like, I'm doing the maths, so next time. But, you know, he said, just keep going. You know, and that's an interesting point, you know. It would be a lot easier if we got the money before the momentum, but yeah.
Cool, thank you.
First, I want to give you this gift, which is an expression of our appreciation. It's chocolate to keep you going. In a moment, I'm going to make the tea announcement, but you've really inspired me, and I would like to, you tell me after, I would like to give you $1,000.
Thanks, man.
So I would like to, now, which is a bargain for me because it's in US dollars versus Aussie dollars.
Okay.
I'll make it US dollars. I'll make the adjustment into Aussie dollars if you like. I would like to ask everyone in the room, anyone who is willing to join me in making a contribution to Daniel's cause. Don't make me pick on you. Yes. Yes. No. I mean now. I want you to put it on the table what you will give now, and that.
I've got $220 on the.
Come on, man.
I see Theo over there. You're calculating how much that is in pounds sterling.
It's very
$100 here.
Thank you. Oh, man.
What do we have here at this table? Very good. Come on, bust it.
That's your book. Thank you. All right, guys, it's the first time we've ever worn tracksuit and accepted cash on stage. if you want a receipt or anything, you just email our team, and our CFO is going to be like, "What happened?" I'm like, "A lot happened." That's very kind. If you want a copy of chapter
Come
1,
on,
we'll
it's
send
not.
it to you.
It's not that far. Get out.
We'll get some books
Get
out.
out of your comfort zones.
Man, cheapers. Thank you so much. Flipping heck.
No one wants
going
that. You do not want your Aussie dollar coins. Please do that.
Stop it, man. That is incredible. Thank you. Thanks, man. Thank you. Oh, thank you, thank you. What? Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now, what he hasn't told us before is he used to be a pole dancer and he's used to collecting cash.
This is a wild morning. Thank you. Who carries this much cash? It's incredible. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, anyone who also feels moved, well,
Thank you. We do.
oh, I know. Or don't give it to anyone from Rackley, or they'll leave it on top of the car. I'll tell you what that's about later. Okay.
Thank you.
Now we will step to our tea break.